This is No Days Off, a whitetail strategy series from the Southern Collective. For the next 6 weeks, we're dropping episodes every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, built to get your mind locked in on mature bucks, summer scouting, and the mindset it really takes to kill one of these jokers in the Southeast. Now, I know it's hot in the summertime, and it's tough to think about being in the woods, but if you're waiting for fall, you're already behind. Let's get to work. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Days Off. I am joined by, I want to say, America's favorite podcast guest, Andy May. Andy May is joining the show today. Andy, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Doing real good. I was just thinking, like, gosh, we've never done a podcast together. You've been doing this for a long time, so
We've never done a podcast together, and it's not for lack of liking you, Andy. Like, I think you're one of the greatest deer hunters to walk the earth, but man, you've been on a lot of podcasts. Like, I'm like, how can we ever get something out of Andy May that's not already there? In fact, I don't know if you know this, buddy, but you're like my Chat GPT model deer hunter. I don't know, like for public land hunting, whenever I ask a question or I'm building like structures for podcasts, it's always, well, Andy May says XYZ. Andy May says this. So you're kind of like America's deer hunter. America's public land deer hunter.
That's hilarious. I could think of several other guys that would better fit that bill, but whatever. That's wild.
Well, dude, man, I've spent some time with you at different tethered events, and we've had some really good conversations. And dude, I think you're one of the greatest minds when it comes to deer hunting, and perfect for the series No Days Off. We're talking to dudes who live and breathe this 365 days a year, and you're one of those guys. And I know, just from listening to you and talking to you and things like that, like your time is fairly limited with your outside schedule. Is that still pretty accurate?
Yeah. Just due to my job, everybody knows that, I kind of work for a school system. I'm an occupational therapist, so I'm kind of limited there during the school year. I work there in the summer on a shortened schedule. So in the summer, I have a little bit more flexibility. But now, my daughter, who I've talked about many times, she's getting older. She can drive now. She can drive herself to practice. I'm not coaching her anymore. So aside from her games and her tournaments, which we go to together, we always do that together, but she's a lot more independent. So it's opened up, somewhat. But yeah. I think I kind of relate well to the working man that's, got a regular 9 to 5, and he's trying to scrape time here and there and still be a good family man and trying to hunt on the weekends while still doing stuff with the family. I've always kind of considered myself in that realm as opposed to like in the hunting industry, where people are doing this for maybe a paycheck, a living, and they got a lot of time flexibility. So, that's kind of where I position myself when I think about all this. But yeah, time is slowly opening up, and I think it will continue to, as I get older. So.
That's a funny thought. I just got done introing you as America's public land hunter, and there's a lot of guys in this world that are like, man, I'm gonna make a living by killing big old bucks. Well, America's deer hunter is still working in the school system and hunting on the weekends. Like it's hard to do it. That's hard work to try to make a living out of just killing big deer. And it's respectable and honorable, I think, of you. Like, you've really prioritized your family, and people know that. I think that's one of the most impressive things about you. But to be able to do that, like to be able to prioritize family, I'm a business owner, and I've got a family myself, and I know to be able to prioritize those things, and still be an effective deer hunter is a hard thing to do. Because it means that you have to still go, like, do all of the work, do all of the things, and do all of the prep, but you just have a smaller window to do it. You can't just spread it out every day of the year, And so that's it. That's this series, and that's this episode for sure. 7 Habits of of a highly effective deer hunter. I don't know. We may have more than seven, but that's the book title, seven.
Yeah.
For anybody who knows, Seven Habits of a Highly Effective Leader. So, uh, we're gonna get into this, dude, and really pick your brain on how you're making it happen in short windows of time, because I know there's got to be a system behind it.
Yeah, and I've talked about this a little bit, but it hasn't always been that way, I think I came up just like everybody else, where I developed, this passion for deer hunting, and it's all I could think about, all I wanted to do, and for many, many years, it's all I did. In the season, hunted, virtually every day. Out of season, scouted virtually every day. And that's not really an exaggeration. I just was always shooting my bow, was always scouting. So I had some time there because I did have my child a little bit later, um, a little bit older than what some families might start at, and it offered me um, a good 10, 12 years or more in there where I just went all in on it, and a kid. I wasn't a kid learning from like dad or grandpa teaching me, this is how you hunt. It was like, no, I'm an adult. This is what I love to do now. This is my passion. I'm extremely focused on it, and I had good work ethic. So I learned it on my own essentially. So I wasn't taught any of the, I don't want to say bad habits, but I wasn't taught any of the habits of like how some hunters come up hunting with their dad and their grandpa. Not that I wish I had that. I would have
Yeah,
killed to be able to spend some time with my dad in the woods, but I never had it. So I think just being kind of a loner like that, and I developed obviously some friends that had the same passion, but we were just completely obsessed with it, and it was just the fast track to learning. I've always had like an obsessive mindset on certain things, and it's funny because like it could have been, in high school, it could have been a video game. I remember when like 007 came out.
oh, Goldeneye.
Oh man, I was like, we played that, right? And we all got so good at it. I was so obsessed with that. Like I got to the point where, how you could do multiplayer? It would be everybody against me.
Yeah,
And I would still smoke everybody. It was just, I mean, it was just that mindset of just like learning the little details and like habits of everybody, and knowing the courses and everything. I mean, that's a silly example, but it like that was in high school, like that was one thing for whatever I hyper focused on, and I became really, really good at it. And then when deer hunting came along, it was the same thing, just in more health, obviously a more healthier outlet. But
hmm,
yeah, it's hasn't always been super easy, but it's always been easy for me to work at it. It's always been easy for me to put time into it. It wasn't ever a question or decision.
yeah,
I never had to force myself to go scouting after work until dark. It's just literally what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. So for years and years and years, I came up the hard way, not having anywhere to hunt and knocking on doors and hunting some public and stuff. And I had success above average from the get go, strictly just because of, I think, the obsession and the work ethic.
yeah,
Um, the obsession with archery, the obsession with scouting, the obsession with learning as much as I could as quickly as possible, the obsession of learning from people that I looked up to that were kind of icons in the hunting world. Where some of my friends that had been hunting way longer than me, they didn't have that mindset at all. They were just hunting how dad taught them, over
yeah,
at farm pile or on the family farm. And I think because I never had that, I kind of went down a lane that might have been more unorthodox than how some people
sure.
got into hunting. So,
Well, you
and then,
said
yeah,
you,
over years, I gained some experience and had more success and gained more confidence, and was very, what's the word? Very intent on challenging myself in a difficult state. And then I wanted to travel to new places because I didn't know anything about those places and new types of terrain and all that. So I just kind of just kind of followed that path of constantly trying to challenge myself until I, got to be a pretty decent hunter. And now I do have the confidence to, go to a state for 2 or 3 or 4 days. And I don't always tag out, but often I do. Um,
Yeah.
and if I don't, I go back another weekend or something. But yeah, that's kind of like uh, the short version of how I got to where I'm at now, I suppose.
Well, you told me one time at ATA. I don't even know if you remember this conversation where you said this. We were at this little bar after
I remember.
ATA one day, and you were saying, I really in that time, in that when you first started, you really got as close as you possibly could to these deer,
Hmm.
and messed up a lot. Like you would bump deer, probably not knowing even what a bump and dump was or anything like that. But you kind of figured out what that threshold is for how close you can get and how aggressive you can be. And that stuck with me when you said it, man. And I don't remember the exact verbiage that you used, but it was like, man, like aggression, being aggressive is the way to hunt whitetails on public land. Like there are some safe methods and ways that you can maybe shoot a few deer here and there, but and I find, since that point, every effective deer hunter I've talked to, that's the commonality with everybody pretty much, is that they're pretty aggressive and they know when to be aggressive and when to do certain things and when to make certain moves. But the reality is for a working guy who has weekends, you can't always do that when the time is right.
Yeah.
Like you don't always get the benefit of being able to, oh, cold front's coming through, I can go right now. I mean, you're having to just play the cards that you're dealt.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I do remember that conversation. It was me and you. I remember Mark Kenyon being there and a couple other guys. But yeah, that was a fun night. But yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of had that mindset right from the beginning because I wasn't taught any other way.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made sense to me. Like I remember I had this steel welded crappy tree stand, but I hunted mobile with it. And I had everything wrapped in duct tape, or electrical tape, just anything to try to quiet it down. But I would, I would go and hang it. I would use screw-in steps. I would hang it, and then, I would observe deer like over there, and I was like, oh, okay, I got to move over there, and that's just what I did. It was just like, to
Yeah.
me that made sense. I never didn't have anyone teaching me like, no, that's the bedding area, you don't go over there, or that's the sanctuary, we don't go over there. If you go over there, you're gonna blow the deer out. I mean, I learned that that's what happens pretty
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
but like I said, like you mentioned, I learned like, oh, okay, well, I can't do that, but I might be able to get here, and then
Yeah.
then you set up there and you're like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't quite tight enough, maybe I can push it a little bit, and it's that kind of give and take that you learn. But I was doing that literally the first year I ever hunted. um and it just, I don't know, it just made sense to me. And I think over time, like, I never thought of it in that way as it was going on, but over time I look back and I was like, man, that really fine-tuned kind of how I hunt now. This That mindset of going after the deer and not necessarily playing things super safe like you would on, maybe a managed piece of private ground, or something like that. So it kind of was square one of developing into, the hunter that I am now.
Well, dude, that's such a huge thing. You mentioned earlier that you didn't have any bad habits to have to get rid of. And that's one of those. That's a simple thing, right? Like, oh, the deer over there, I should go over there. But somebody who maybe was raised hunting and shooting houses or hunting over food plots, it's like, oh, we don't go over there. That's where the deer run. That's if you go in there, it's going to screw up everything.
Yep.
And so you end up waiting at the feeder or at the food plot or in the ladder stand that's been there forever. You end up waiting for the rut is really what you end up doing,
Yep.
and hoping the deer screws up and kind of comes outside of that. But you're talking. I mean, I've watched you for several years. I mean, years, and it's all during all times of the season. It's early season. It's late season. It's the rut, of course, and then post and pre. Like you kind of. It doesn't seem like there's necessarily a time that Andy May is effective. It's when Andy May's in the woods, he's effective.
Well,
And
it
I know
might
it probably
appear.
doesn't feel like that
Yeah,
from your on social media. That's the way it looks, man.
yeah, it might appear that way, but I can assure you, that's not how it always pans out. But yeah, I mean, when you do something long enough, and this goes for anybody, if you dedicate essentially a huge part of your life to it, into learning and to improving, you're gonna get better. Um, and I don't think of myself as a superior deer hunter or um, a better hunter than so and so. It's just like it's just what I do. It's just what I do, and it's just how I do it. I don't try to think of myself as higher than somebody because I know there's people out there that are hunting even more difficult stuff than me, or might have a different journey. So yeah, I struggle. I struggle every year at certain points, but I also know my style or my mindset, if I stick to it and I stay positive and I stay persistent, it pays off. I've proven that to myself for over 25 years. So I don't get down when I make a mistake. I just use it as a learning experience. If a buck beats me, I'm like, sweet, all right, I know a little bit more about you now. It's a yeah, he beat me, but now I know a little bit more about him and how I might be able to get on that buck next time. So I take those errors, those misjudgments, those wrong decisions just in stride anymore. I don't beat myself up about them, and I just know that I'm going to be a better hunter because of them. Because
Hmm.
I've made so many mistakes over the years, just so many. But man, they just shaped me into a hunter that can go out there and kind of stick to his game plan, and I know that it'll pay off, and so that's just what I do, and it sucks to make a mistake, it sucks to miss a deer, it sucks to do everything right and then make one dumb decision, at the last minute or something, but that's hunting. That's why it's hard. That's why we love it, and I wouldn't want it any easier. I like doing things that are that feel hard to me, and this feels hard to me, so I like it when they win. I like it when they win. I like hunting difficult stuff just because it makes me feel more fulfilled, and I feel like it makes me a better hunter because of that.
Well, and inevitably, when you do feel a tag, all we know this, dude, and it's hard to convince yourself of this in the moment whenever you're getting your butt beat. But we know that that beat down makes it sweeter in the
Mhm.
end. Like you said, you kind of trust yourself. Like if I know what I'm doing, if I'll keep going, if I stick to it, it pays off. Like it does. It just does. Especially if you're making good decisions, right? That's a huge part of it, making good decisions and being in the right spots.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to convince yourself I'm never going to kill another one, or and you just can't get there. You can't let your mind get to that point.
Believe it or not, I feel that almost every year at some point. I'm like, I don't know if
Dude,
I'm gonna kill another deer. It's
yeah.
just like because I always feel, I always go with my gut. I get these strong intuitions, just probably just through experience of failures and successes, and I learned to follow my gut. And there'll be years where it's October 20th, October 25th, and I don't have anything killed yet, and then like my buddies are reaching out, well, what's wrong with you? Where's your big buck and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know. It's I'm
He's in the
striking out.
woods.
What can I say? It's hard. I'm struggling. Um, but and then in the next 10 days, I'll kill three. So it's like
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's just every year. I mean, we put in a lot of time. We tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So like when we do hit the struggle bus, yeah, it's easy to get frustrated, get down on yourself. But anymore, I'm just like, yeah, I've killed my share of deer. I've had great experiences. All I want to do is just enjoy my time out there and challenge myself and continue to get better. And I know that if I stick with it, I'm gonna have those experiences. So I don't get too wound up about it anymore.
Sure. Well, dude, let's dive into this. I want to dive into some of these things
Yep.
because, like we've established, dude, you're one of the greatest I would say this is a multi statement. You're one of the greatest voices in this space to me because you're so stinking humble and you're easy to talk to and you're so knowledgeable. And also your resume speaks for itself, right? Like you don't even have enough room. I'm looking behind you. You don't even have enough room for the deer heads that you got. Like you got them laying on the floor, and so no, I know Greg always picks on you about being the most humble. Like you don't know how good you are at like everything that you do, uh, and you
Yeah.
don't acknowledge it. And so I appreciate that about you. But I want to get into your mind a little bit and
Okay.
figure out how you're doing this. So I guess just start from the top, man, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, you presented this idea of seven habits to be a leader, but with the idea of being a good deer hunter. So I got to thinking about it. Um, One of the first thing that popped off my head was just being, and it's cliche. I mean, everybody will say this, but being proficient with your weapon. I am I am more obsessed with archery, or at least as obsessed with archery than I am with bow hunting. I shoot almost every day. If the only reason I wouldn't shoot every day is if I'm not home. Like if I'm not home and I'm doing something else. Otherwise, I make sure I get some arrows in. I enjoy it. It's like a meditation to me, but it's also um I'll use it for various ways. I can use it as a stress reliever when I've had a hard day. I use it as I've talked about this on another podcast. I feel like every day I have to check the box with something. Like I don't have to do hunting stuff all day, but at least once a day I have to check the box off to make me feel like I did something that'll lead to some success in the season. That could
It's
be
no days off, man. I mean, that's it. That's the
snow
title of the
days off.
series. Yeah.
Yeah, and that could be scouting. It could be that could be cyber scouting. It could be boots on the ground. It could just be going out and shooting my bow. So I'll use it for that sometimes. I'll use it for, like I said, a stress reliever, a meditation. Oftentimes I'm using it to test. Like that's what I've been doing this past 2 weeks is testing different vein configurations with different broadheads. Why do I do that? One, it keeps me shooting. Two, it increases my confidence. Three, I'm learning. And I usually settle in with a specific arrow setup. Then I go into that season and I'm super confident with that because I have tested it against this and this and this, and this is what performed the best. And some people would be like, well, why are you doing that? I'd rather be out scouting beds and all this stuff. Yeah, I probably would too, but I can't do that all the time. And this is what I do in replace of that to check those boxes. And I enjoy it. I just said
Do
like,
you work on your own bow? Do you
oh
do
yeah,
all your own
yes,
tuning and stuff?
I do everything. Yep. I build my own arrows. And my arrows have to meet a certain criteria for me to feel confident going out and hunting with them. It's not like I buy an arrow and fletch them with blazers and I go hunt. That's to me, my confidence would be down the
Yeah.
tubes with something like that.
Yeah.
But that's what most people do. But that's just a difference of mindset. How much is this really helping me? I think a lot because you look at some well-known hunters who clearly have difficulty, you know, at crunch time.
Capitalizing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
capitalizing, with the kill shot. There's a lot of them.
Raising my hand.
Yeah, I mean
Ah,
it's super common. And by me diving deep and testing and always, shoot my bow, knowing my bow inside and out, knowing the trajectory, knowing how to tune my bow, literally training for different types of shots. Like I don't stand. The only time I stand in the backyard and I'm flinging arrows is if I'm like flat-footed, is if I'm testing, I'm setting my sight marks, I'm working on form, I'm testing setup against setup. Other than that, I'm in training mode. Like I'm on my knees, I'm on my butt, I'm in the saddle, I'm in a stand, I'm on my roof, I'm on uneven ground with my right foot high, my left foot low. And that's because those are the shots I get in the woods. It'd be like an MMA trainer, you know, going to get, he's training for his fight, but he's just hitting the speed bag. Boom, 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 boom.
yeah.
That's all he does. Oh, look how many times I can, or he's just hitting the heavy bag. but there's all these other things that are going to happen in that fight. He's going to get taken down to the ground. He's going to have to grapple. He's going to have to learn, no submissions, all this stuff. So I train with that type of mindset, like real world, the positions I'm in. Now, granted, I hunt other species. I hunt mule deer. I hunt antelope. I hunt from the ground a lot. So a lot of times I'm on my knees. I'm on half kneel. I'm on my butt. I'm hunched over. Um, I'm in a saddle often. I'm in a tree stand sometimes. So it's a lot of spot and stalk. It's a big variety there. So I'm training for a specific purpose when I go out there to actually train. But other than, like I said, setting my sight marks, testing vein configurations and broadhead combos and stuff like that, I'm not really shooting flat footed. And what does that do in that scenario? Like, what's a guy that say, okay, I'm going to go to Kansas and, I'm going to hunt from the ground or whatever. And he sees a buck out there and he drops down into this little drainage and he crawls up and he's on his knees and he's got a 25-degree from his knees down 40-yard shot. That guy's going to blow it every time. He's never done it. Where I've done those things hundreds and hundreds of times because I've went on those trips. I've been in those scenarios. I've screwed them up. I know that those are the real world shots. In the saddle, I mean, sometimes, yeah, it works out perfect, right? The strong side, but often it doesn't, right? You're often maneuvering or you're like this, or you got a weak side shot. So, that's the type of stuff. I think of it as a training session.
Yeah.
So it's usually when I say, know your weapon, master your weapon, it's, I want to know all my equipment really well. I want to build the most confident, forgiving setup. And that's for me, an arrow to meet those expectations. It has to be quiet. It has to be forgiving. It has to steer the broadhead that I want to use well. And I test that I don't test it at 20 yards. I don't test that at 30 yards. I'm testing that at 120 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And though that's when I see, maybe a group like this, and then I change the setup to something maybe a little lower profile, a little more helical, a little less helical, and then it shrinks to this. Well, some people are gonna be like, well, who cares? It's this and this. Well, inches matter. I mean, like I said, I hunt other species. There's long shots that present themselves, so I want to be ready for that, and I want to have the utmost confidence. And whitetails too. I mean, whitetails are jumpy. You often get tough angles. You're often in timber or foliage where you need to know your trajectory. I got a certain trajectory I want. So I think of all of those details to like the 10th degree, where most guys aren't thinking about it like that. It's like, oh, it's a whitetail setup. I got to hit a pie plate at 30. That's no, for me, that's just not, that's not anywhere where my mind is at all. But that, some people might think of, look at that and be like, man, that's way over the top. And maybe it is, but it's just the way I am. It's what I like to do.
It works, buddy.
It keeps me connected in the hunt. Keeps me connected in the hunt when I can't go out and scout. Like if I had, like I told you, this next week, I have next week off. I'm going to be scouting a lot. I'm going to be scouting most days. This past week I had to work, didn't get out scouting at all, but I shot my bow every day. So it's just like checking those boxes, and trying to, it's all part of the hunt. All of this process is all part of the hunt that leads to peaking when hunting season starts. So my equipment is the best it can be. I'm the best I can be. And the confidence is super high.
Dude, that is so I started working on my bow this year. That's what and this has been a long time coming for me. I had a guest years ago on Southern Ground podcast named Matt Powell. He's a big part of the bow hunting league and just a killer, man. Dude knows what he's doing. And he said a very similar thing when he was talking about the important things to him. And the number one thing he said was his equipment. And that it has played back in my mind over and over and over again. Because I can tend to be the same way, that if, let's give a great example of shotgun shells for turkeys. I put a lot of work into, finding turkeys. Usually once I kill a turkey, I've walked many, many miles to try to kill this turkey. I want to make sure I can kill that bird with what's in the chamber, right? Like I want to make sure that happens. If I've had situations where all my shells have dumped out and I was left with just kind of a backup, something that I wasn't super confident with. And it's like, dude, I don't even want to go to the woods right now
Mm,
because I don't know that I know that I know that I know that if I'm right, if my bead is on that turkey's head, it's gonna hit him, right? Like
yes.
that's how confident I get whenever I'm. Same thing with my bow. If my broadhead, if I've got a broadhead on that's shooting 2 inches to the right, for a lot of people to be like, 2 inches ain't gonna be much, and I'm like, no. But I'll tell you where I suck at is what you were talking about, actually putting yourself in those situations to make those shots. That's where, like, I'll get to where I can shoot. And I was actually thinking about that this morning. We're doing an archery contest in our Patreon group, and man, guys are shooting great. Like, we're it's kind of a 1 shot, a 3 shot challenge every single week in different scenarios, and guys are shooting really good. If somebody's off 4 inches, it's a bad shot. Well, how many times do these same group of guys miss? How many times do we miss in any
Mm,
given situation during deer season? It's going to happen a lot.
mm,
It happens a lot, and it's going to happen a lot again. And I think a lot of that is just not being committed to, like, putting yourself in the situation that you're going to shoot. Your bow's fine, your bow's sighted in, but you're not, right?
yes.
Like
Right.
that's kind
Yeah.
of what it ends up being. You're not ready. Your bow's good, but you're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And I know some phenomenal deer hunters that don't do anything that I do. And there, I know a couple of them that don't even have tuned bows, and they go out there and
Yeah.
they kill every year. But they're hunting from a tree stand. Their shots are 25 and in, and that's it. And you can pull that off if that's the type of hunter you are, and that's your setup, and you're a whitetail guy, and it's 25 or 30 and in. Yeah, man, you can get away with a lot. But that's not the type of hunter I am. That's not the type of hunter I want to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I hunt from a tree stand. I shoot at 25 yards all the time, but I want to be capable of much more. Um, Hunting whitetails from the ground is incredibly difficult. I like to do it, on the foot, sneaking around, slipping around, not in a blind. And then obviously all the other species, that we won't get into. You need to be able to make challenging shots on uneven ground in the wind. So all of those things, I almost train the archery as like almost like a professional athlete mindset, but it's geared more towards more of the Western stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it has absolutely helped me in the whitetail stuff. You know, it
Well,
absolutely.
it makes the whitetail stuff easier. I threw
Yeah.
shot put when I was in high school, and we would train with the big, like, I can't even remember the weights now. We would train with these big, giant, super heavy uh, shot put balls, and they were nowhere nearly what we were competing with, but it made it. I mean, once you picked up the regulation shot put, it's like, dude, is this for
Mm.
junior hires? This thing's a little bitty. When you've been
Yeah.
practicing with the big one, and that's the same thing with so many things. You lift more weights, right? It makes the lesser weights feel easy, and I think it's the same thing when it comes to shooting and archery. I find if I shoot a lot at 40 yards any given day, shooting, I mean, that's as pretty much as far as my yard allows me to shoot. If I shoot at 40 yards and then I bring it into 15 and 20, it's like, dude, those are like cake.
Yeah.
It's
Isn't that a
easy.
great feeling? Yeah.
And that's where the majority of my whitetail shots are going to be at, in that 15 to 30 yard range. And so, dude, that's good stuff. And I think you could probably talk about that until the day that you die, and people are still not going to do it. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
think
Not
it's
everybody's
true.
served. Yeah. Not
And not
everybody's.
everybody's going to be effective either,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
but I'm taking this stuff to heart, man. Like, as you're talking, it's like, dude, I, it's something I've been feeling. Like, I've known for a minute that I need to just be more proficient with my weapon and
Part,
know the weapon and practice more.
part of the reason I emphasize that so much, one is because, like I had mentioned, there's a lot of times I can't go down and scout. I feel like I need to do something I'm gonna improve. That'll improve my success. But a lot of it is because I do struggle. I've always struggled with that, executing the shot under pressure. I always have. It's always something that has never came super easy to me, even though I've always been a really good bow shot. So it's something I identified, you know, 20 years ago that like, man, I need to do better with this. So it's just something that I emphasize. And, and I think too, like a big difference is like, there might be guys where maybe they don't train in that manner and they have a chance at a deer, or maybe maybe they see a buck through the woods and they range him and he's like, oh, he's at 38 or 45 or whatever. He's like, oh, but there's a branch covering his vitals, where I might be in that same scenario. And I was like, well, I know, I see where my arc of my arrow is going to go. I know it's going to sail right over that branch because it's, it's halfway, my arrow's gone while he's still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like I know what my capabilities are, and I know what my arrow can do and what it's going to do. So there's probably some scenarios where it's like, holy crap, like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're certainly not all like that, but like I think I get some deer because of that confidence, and because I know my capabilities. And I if it's something that I've done 100 times in the backyard with never missing the vitals, I'm not going to hesitate in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't hesitate. It'll just naturally happen. Um, Now, like I'm careful of, I know certain species do certain things when they hear the shot. I'm cognizant of the wind and all that. And yeah, I make mistakes, but, if the confidence is there, that arrow's going. So
Yeah. Dude, that's good stuff. Let's move on to the second thing you got. I mean, that's a good start though.
yeah,
I think if everybody did, here's the thing too. Like, I think if everybody, I know 7 things, this might be a little bit overwhelming. But like taking one of these things, saying if that's a hole in your system, just trying it out and finding one of these things to really focus on is a really good way to get started in developing some good habits. So let's move on to number 2, the second habit of a highly effective deer hunter, from Andy May.
yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but it's just scouting year round. We're coming up on July, and I'll be scouting at least 4 or 5 days next week, just because I have the time. It's I'm in the woods anytime I can. It doesn't really matter what month it is. I have certain windows where I emphasize it a little more postseason. When that snow is melted, get in there before green up. I spend a lot of time there. I spend a lot of time leading up to the season, maybe 2-3 weeks leading up to the season. I spend a lot of time because I'm trying to locate something to hunt. And then I spend a lot of time during the season scouting. So in season scouting. So those are 3 big windows where I'm spending a lot of time scouting. But then that leaves a good part of the year where anytime I have chances, I'm in the woods. And I like to scout areas that I've hunted that I know
Mm-hmm.
well, to learn them even more. Like there's spots that been hunting for 25 years, and I still am picking up on little nuances that just put me in a better position. Or, the tree stand, could be moved this way, or, oh man, like I never thought of this tree before, or I pick up on something, or something changes, because there's a guy on private land put a box blind up here, and like the things are constantly changing slightly, and I like to be very in tune with that. So I'll often scout areas that I know very well, and just to pick up on these things. But I also have like a very like adventurous spirit, and I like to scout new stuff. So I'm constantly walking new ground, and just kind of, I have a literally a library of spots I've hunted, spots I've scouted, places I've killed, and it's become so large that, like, I can literally like jump from one thing to the next. If this doesn't pan out or this buck gets killed, it's like I got all these other options to go and check out and scout, and maybe get on a good deer. So scouting year round, probably the most important. And I do it year round because of just time availability. I kind of have to sprinkle it and spread it out. Like I did, it was 2, 3 weeks ago. I had a week off, and I spent a lot of time in the woods covering new ground, all new stuff, and found some really good areas. Like even when it was, it's hot and the foliage is up, you're still picking up on little signs. It's not
Mm-hmm.
as easy, but the more I'm out there, the more I just get in tune, the more I'm learning the land. I'm just kind of like really working that woodsmanship, really working like knowing the land. Where's the food? What, are there mass? Is there mass on this piece? Is there water? Like where are the deer traveling? How are they getting to this? Where are they bedding? Are they bedding on this property? Is this a property that I can maybe hunt, throughout the season because it holds bucks, or is it a property that it actually doesn't hold bucks? There's buck sign and there's doe sign, but there's no buck bedding. Okay, I'm gonna have to be really careful about laying off this piece and coming in here when the time is right.
Mm-hmm.
So just I love having that kind of confidence in an area ahead of time and just knowing it inside and out. And like I said, like there's spots I've been on for 20 plus years and I'm still finding new things. So it's just like it's constant. You can continue to grow and continue to learn, and it's just proven to me how little I do know. Really. Um,
It's reps. I mean, that's all it
yeah.
is. It's the same thing as anything. Like if you're going out, I'm jealous of one of our co-hosts, Matt Reeves, a forester, and he spends so much time just walking through the woods and learning even properties that he's not hunting. He's getting those mental reps of like, oh look, here's some deer sign. Oh, I wonder why that's there. Boom, boom, boom. You put pieces together. It's no rest, right? Like you're never your mind never just takes a break. As long as you're in the woods, you're learning and you're figuring things out. And is there like a you kind of mentioned different types of scouting, like scouting places that that you've killed at or that you're very familiar with, and then there's like finding new ground. As far as like the different times of the year that you scout, do you have a preference for like I like to go to new stuff postseason, I like to go to new stuff during the summer?
Um, I mean, if it were my choice, I would do everything. I would like to walk everything postseason at
Mm-hmm.
least once. Just because that's an open book. That's when I can really gather some information. I can really see and break down things. I don't miss as much. Um, but I just simply can't. That's like my daughter's basketball season where it's a busy time of year. So it's more weekend stuff, maybe after work for a few hours. So it's like I'll bomb over this piece and scout, and I'm bombing to her game. It's like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean that's I would say like that's very valuable. Um, Postseason before green up in finding rut sign. So like I can really dial in like what type of rut activity is in this area or lack of. So it kind of gives me an idea on timing. I tend to find like bedding much easier that time of year, specifically buck bedding, just because the rubs and the scrapes and everything it's
Okay.
fresh, it's not covered. You're not missing anything. The beds aren't so grown up that you could walk 20 yards by and miss it, in August, but you could see things better. So so that would be more geared towards like, okay, oh, I found this buck bed, man, it's worn to the dirt. Okay, it's on this little swamp island here. All right, this looks like it's used, quite a bit during the season. I'm scouting around. I'm looking at the exit trails. All right, this might be a buck that I can throw some sits at in October. Like that's what I'm breaking down there. Where, maybe another piece I find some rubs, but they're kind of scattered. I'm seeing some doe bedding. I'm not seeing anything real super thick and real secure where like a big mature buck would feel safe. But I'm finding rut activity and I'm searching high and low. It's like I'm not finding any bedding on this okay, this might be a spot where there's no groups here. These bucks they're going to be coming in at some point. I need to just lay off, monitor, maybe throw some cameras in there or whatever, and then I need to slip in if there's a buck in there, or if it's an area that typically has good bucks. That I need to slip in at the right time, and that's when that timing thing. And you can find that out a lot by just scouting and breaking it down. But you need to be out there. You need to be really focused on what you're seeing, and it's a little bit of problem solving. And I'm not always right, but that's kind of how the process is.
Yeah.
But if I can't get to things postseason, which there's a ton that I inevitably miss, like okay, I'll go in May. I'll go during turkey season. Okay, I missed it during turkey season. I still got to scout this piece over here. I'll go. All right, I got a week in July. I'm going in July. And I'll just see what I can do. And it may be maybe I don't find anything super exciting, and it's so thick, and it's hard to really know. But it's like, okay, I found this old scrape though. Here's a rub line or whatever, a creek crossing. I'm gonna put a camera in here. I'm gonna let it soak for a year, get some intel, build that, and then maybe this is a spot that I capitalize on down the road. But I'll have a dozen places like that I've
Yeah.
that I've walked that maybe they're not going to pan out this year, but they potentially could be pan out last year. And there's a lot of duds out there that just dead ends. But
Yeah.
that's just the process, man. I love it. I love going out there and working that process. And every year I'm picking up new pieces and finding new bucks and in new areas. And other years it's um, there's old standbys that typically hold a good buck, and they might be there, or maybe one year there's not. Everything's changing. So the more I'm in the woods, the more I'm in tune with everything. The more I'm out of the woods, the less I'm in tune, the less efficient I am, which is fine. I notice the more I do Western hunts in the fall, the more out of tune I am with whitetail, and I struggle a little more, which makes sense.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense. Yeah. Scouting is one of those things for me that I'm always looking to hear like something magic from somebody, like, oh, this is what I do when I go scout. And it's like just that thing, it's like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm effective. But really, I've talked to a lot of people in my life and about deer hunting and about scouting and about, in the off season, it seems like that's what we're all really kind of focused on because that's the closest thing we can do to hunt.
Hmm.
But there's not ever, it doesn't seem like there's ever a magic thing, it's just walk slowly. That seems to be a good tip. Walk slow, try not to miss anything, be really diligent about covering the ground that you're walking through, like picking it apart.
Hmm.
But it's really just all about being there. Like being there, you kind of let the woods tell you what the magic thing is for that specific spot.
Yeah, like
Um,
here's a good example, like the rut spot I told you about. Like I go in, I I scour the place. I'm not finding any buck bedding, but I'm finding buck sign. Like clearly there was some rutting activity in here. There's scrapes. They're kind of scattered. No real pattern to them. There's some rubs, scrapes, all that stuff. And I see, maybe find some doe bedding or doe sign out there. It's like, okay, this feels like a rut spot. So I'm immediately thinking funnel. Okay, where can I get in and probably cover a good portion of this where a lot of things come together? Maybe it's a lot of trails, maybe it's a train trap, maybe it's literally like a land funnel between water, whatever it is. I'm immediately thinking like funnel, and then I'm thinking doe bedding areas. So like, okay, I need to know where the does are, kind of where they're bedding. Maybe there's several. Maybe it's in a area where it's like a group of three over here, a group of four over here, or maybe it's like a marsh or a swamp, and it's like I know they're all bedded out there and they're all coming this way. Like every scenario is different, but I'm immediately thinking funnel, and I'm immediately thinking doe bedding, as opposed to the other scouting scenario where I scout a piece and be like, oh man, there's a big rub cluster here. I'm walking into maybe some real thick tangle, and I see a little rub line going in. And, oh man, another rub. Oh man, there's a scrape. And all of a sudden, it's like I see high stem count. I'm like, I bet you there's a bed over there. You go over, you find a bed. It's in the shade, and then you kind of search around a little more. There's one where a little light comes through. There's one in the sun. It's like, okay, he's bedding here. when he wants to be in the sun, he's bedding here. When he wants to be in the shade, okay, now I'm thinking about how am I going to intercept this buck that's bedding here. If I like the sign, if it looks like it's from a mature deer, it's a completely different thing. Maybe there is a funnel where he's coming out and going towards food or towards, whatever. But I'm immediately thinking, how can I intercept this buck? How close can I get without bumping him? How close can I get where I can intercept him and have a likely, bow shot where I think he's going to, in the direction where I think he's going to go. So two different mindsets. You're still scouting, but two different mindsets with what I found on each piece. And then there might be another piece where it's like, hey, this is a little more open. Yeah, I am finding some buck bedding, but like maybe I'm finding some rubs. There's some concentration of rubs in here. I'm not really seeing anything that's like a well-used buck bed, but like clearly there were at some point in the season there were some bucks living in here. A lot of times you find that in the big woods. You don't necessarily find a bed that's dug out and worn to the dirt, right? So like a little depression, you might not even see it. But maybe I see that, and then I see like there's some doe activity, and it's like it's more open, and I feel like, man, I can kind of slip around in here, a little bit. Like I feel like I could maybe move in here on a hunt and glass and move slow and glass and move slow, and I might think of that piece attacking that piece like that. Like I'm going to go in there with no no tree in mind necessarily, and I'm going to be on the ground, and I'm gonna move and kind of slip hunt my way through like at prime time. Get out there, sit, glass, kind of move around a little, maybe set up here, and then as things start to move, I'm adjusting. Like there's pieces like that where I will not get in a tree because it's more advantageous to me to be on the ground because I can see them maybe out in the CRP or overgrown field or whatever, and I can move and adjust. So it really depends, but like the piece of ground or the area that I'm scouting will kind of tell me how I'm going to attack it.
Yeah.
And I go with what I feel like will be the most advantageous to me, what my gut says. And that could change. It could change at any minute. I could find something 10 minutes later and the whole thought process could change. But that's kind of like broad how, my mind might work in like three different scenarios.
Well, how quick it can change is the reason why you've got to be diligent in
Yeah.
scouting and knowing the area that you're in. Because I think most of us are the same way. It's like it can change real fast. Like you've been in those situations. You're like, oh, this is a good spot. I should hunt here. And then you walk a little bit further. Like, oh no, here's the spot.
Hmm.
I would have never known that had I not gone a little bit further. I can think of a lot of times that's
Yeah.
happened to me. And so
Yeah.
just doing what you're talking about and getting even places where you've killed before where you think you know where the spot is, right? I'm real big on this with scouting. Like I feel like I pretty well know where the deer are most of the time, like I know the areas that I want to be in most years, and I'm kind of like you. I've got a lot of them to where at this point it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about if one spot's dead. Like I got lots of areas to possibly go to, but I find that if I have all day to go scout, like truly have all day, I'm going to go to a spot that I know,
Hmm.
um, because I want to cover more ground and I want to cover that whole place and really, like, if I know it's good already, I want to figure out even more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's different for everybody. I really do. I don't think everybody. It's not a like I said. It's not a cheat code really. The cheat code is being there and going scouting and
Yeah.
putting eyes on things. I think, and then you just become more efficient. I think as you do that, you grow consistently. It's just like we talked about earlier. Those mental reps and physical reps that you're getting um they're so important. I think so.
Yeah.
So we got being familiar with your equipment, with your weapon.
Yeah.
We've got summer scout or not summer scouting, just scouting year round.
Yeah.
Is number two. What's number three?
Um, every year I try to either learn a new skill or improve on like a weakness. Um, so like I have a little archery room. It's where, I got my bow press, all kinds of stuff in there. But I have a little chalkboard, and I always put like a little list of the things that I wasn't happy about with myself, from that season. And I want it up there just so it's a reminder. Like I don't want to forget like these things I did poorly, or these things cost me dear, or these things I need to improve on. So I put them up there, and then, those are just a couple of things. I don't overdo it. I just pick a couple, and I really focus on those things. A lot of times in the past, like a couple of things where, um, you know, slowing my shot down, you know, like I used to have a hard time, and still do occasionally, like a hard time rushing the shot, I just get excited, and you think that that opportunity is going to leave, and you're executing that shot a lot faster than you really need to. So that's been up there in the past, like slow your shot process down. However you got to do it, and for me, it's been more of like a mental approach of
Mm-hmm.
forcing myself to slow things down. And you usually have a couple more seconds than you think you do, and that's what it's tough, because especially with the way I hunt, and I think this is specific to me and probably some other guys that hunt on the ground. I know Jared Scheffler and I have talked about it because he experiences it too. But like, I'm often on the ground, or I'm often low, and I have a very aggressive approach. So it's kind of like a very, and this isn't all the time, but some of the time I'm very like, I kind of feel like I'm like in their face. Like I'm slipping in really slow to get in really, really close. And that often leads to intense situations where maybe some deer are starting to catch on that I'm there, or maybe they see me and I'm only 6 feet up, or, I'm on the ground in a stare off, and, all of a sudden you get to full draw. That moment is extremely intense, but it's the last moment you want to rush. So, and I've learned that from the past. It's like, all right, just get a pin on them and go, and if I can just, it really just takes a second. If I can just slow myself down for a second, like when you get that urge to rush, and it's intense, and they're looking at you and you think they're going to bolt, if you can wait one more second, it's like a world of difference between forcing yourself to do it when you feel like you just want to get it over with, and make it happen, versus just wait one more second. Okay, squeeze, 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 boom. It's a world of difference. So that has been up there in the past. Um, I've had, in the past I got to get better on the ground. I got to get more confident on the ground. Uh, I've literally wrote on there, "You suck at late season." It's like, figure it out. So, and then it's like I put more effort into late season. I'll scout instead of the season ends and I put all my stuff away, wait for the snow to melt. No, what I started doing was I literally started going into the woods the next day when all that snow's there, finding all the sign, and that was huge to making me a better late season hunter, because I started scouting all these same pieces, or all these, these new pieces and pieces that I've hunted immediately after the season when the snow is there. Now I know these trails. Now I know where they're bedding when the snow is there, when the food is limited. I know what they're feeding on. That made a huge difference. I just wasn't putting the priority into it, because I was killing most of my deer, maybe a couple, one or two early, or maybe an early season kill, and then a couple in October, and then maybe one during the rut or something. And I was kind of like, yeah, I've had a good year. Like there's been so many years where I just stop hunting because it's like, I don't feel like I need to kill any more deer. Like I've had a good
Mm-hmm.
year, and and then I don't even find myself hunting from like November 15th on. Well, it's like I want to be well rounded, and it goes back to that mindset. I want to be effective early. I want to be effective in October. I want to be effective in November. I want to be effective in December, because I see people go out there and they're effective in those time frames, and I it used to be early season. That was a struggle for me. And I would see like friends of mine or people I knew, and I was just like, they were just killers early season. I was like, man, I got to get better at this. So I just, you know, chose a couple people and asked a lot of questions and learned their process. And it's like, oh man, they got a process similar to my process, but they're focusing in on early. And this guy does really well late season every single year. He's got a process, but it's super intense. It's just like my process that I'm using for early season now. Now I got to do it for late season. So, and then I started killing, some late season bugs. So it's just that, again, it kind of goes back to that mindset of like constantly trying to improve. You really got to be
Mm-hmm.
like, look at yourself, admit that like you got some weaknesses, you got some things to work on. And it's like you either want to become better or you're okay with the way you are, and there's no wrong answer. I'm never okay with the way I am, ever. Like I always feel like if I'm not growing, I lose, I get bored, I get bored.
Yeah.
Um, like it just like every day, like, so I got a New Mexico antelope hunt in August and it's going to be hot. So I know I'm in good shape. I know I can walk for miles and miles, but like that heat is rough. I've hunted in Nevada August 10th. Like that heat will knock a guy. You guys know from the south, like
Yeah.
it's tough. Try doing, putting on 15 miles a day, in 105-degree heat. It's rough.
Yeah.
So we've had this heat here in Michigan. It's been 95, 96, and I'm like, man, perfect opportunity to do like some heat training. So I've been running. I'm not a big runner. I like to ruck, you know.
Yeah.
So I've been running, and it's literally not because I want to be a better runner. It's like, okay, this is going to help me in August. It's all it is, and it's just like I don't want to do it. I'm just forcing myself to do it. That kind of goes into
Dude,
the next. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
golly, you had a perfect segue, and I don't want to ruin it, but I was just talking about this to the guys, to the SoCo guys yesterday, because it's been freaking hot and everybody's tired of the heat, right? But I started running. I started running in the summertime, late spring, summer, and it does that to me for me, and I find like once I get in shape and I'm running regularly and I'm in shape, I'll start turning the AC off in my truck. Like I'm just a little like it's comfortable to feel the sun. It's comfortable to feel the heat
Hmm.
when you're raising the bar up, and like it's not comfortable to run in the heat at all. But sitting in the heat after you've been running in the heat is not that bad, and
Yeah.
and it's huge. I mean, that's a huge thing when it comes to early season hunting in the South. You've got to know how to be okay in the heat, right? Like you've got to figure out how to be maybe not comfortable in the heat, but as comfortable as you can possibly be, and not let it bother you because it's important.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, and that's just to me it was like, okay, there's an opportunity right here to again, that I'm going to New Mexico for antelope. That's a long ways to go. I know how hard antelope are to hunt the way I want to hunt them, and I want to be the best I can be. So it just to
Yeah.
me it's like, here we go. Now I can heat train. It's like it's just, to me it's just like I'm gonna do everything I can to put myself in the best position to be successful on that hunt. And that's gonna mean shooting in the wind. That's going to mean shooting long distances. It's going to mean finding a very, very forgiving arrow setup, which is the one of the reasons I've been working so hard those last couple of weeks is for that hunt. Because I've hunted antelope before and I've killed antelope, and I know what's in store. It's can be really tricky. Um, so and that kind of leads to the next segment. It was just for me like fitness, staying in shape. Um, Again, that's kind of cliche, but it does a couple things for me. I know you don't have to be like Hercules to be a whitetail deer hunter. You don't. But like I said, I like to hunt other things. I like to go out west. I like to feel like I can crush the mountains. And so a lot of my motivation when I'm working out, especially now, I'm 47. As I get older, it's not about looking a certain way. It's not about having like crazy strength. It's about being able to be effective at what I want to do. And I want to be able to hike up high, hike far. I want to be able to make difficult shots. on uneven terrain, at high elevation, at low elevation, and I don't want to bonk out physically. I don't want my knees to give out. I don't want my back to give out. So it's a real motivating factor to me to be able to go out and do those things at a high level. It's really motivating me to stay in shape and to stay, in I guess a level of um, in shape or athleticism that I'm expecting myself to be in. And it certainly helps. That certainly helps in the whitetail stuff because maybe not necessarily physically, but like, yeah, there's some physical whitetail hunts when you have to, in hill country, you're going back up and down. And it's like, yeah, there's a difference. There's people out there that can't do that. There's,
Yeah.
and
Or
there's a
they'd be
lot of
doing
people.
it and they're not.
Yeah. 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 And it's easy to be like, oh, man, I don't know. Today I'm just a little worn out and I'm just going to do this. And that's fine. Like I've had those same feelings, but like when you're forcing yourself to go to the gym, like I went at 5:30 this morning. I do not want to go to the gym at 5:30. Trust me, I do not want to. I wake up and I always say, God dang it. And then I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I just go. And it's like after a while, it's like you're training your brain. You hit this crossroad of like, here's the difficult path and here's the easy path. I got to make a choice. And when you kind of train your brain to make the difficult choice, the difficult choice, the difficult choice, it becomes so easy to make that choice. It's just what you do.
Hmm.
So like in a whitetail scenario, maybe I get up, I've been grinding hard for 3 days and I'm feeling like, oh God, I just need a little time sleeping in, which is fine. I sometimes do that, especially in the rut. Like I just need to sleep in and then I'll be good the rest of the day, the rest of the
Hmm.
week. But it might be that one time where you're like, stop being a little bitch. Go, it's the rut. You literally got to work next week. Get out there. Yeah, it's a long hike. Get up early, get out there. And that might be the day. That might be the day that saves your season. Or you're willing to push farther back on this piece of public away from everybody else or whatever. So it's not only training your body, but it's also training your mind just to be a little more mentally tough. That's why one of the reasons I use that. Now, as I age, I've had multiple knee surgeries. I got hip problems. I got a low back problem. Um, so I'm doing things to like mitigate that, to make those areas strong and durable. So like I'm working out a lot different way than I was, say, 15 years ago. It's literally to stay flexible, to stay mobile, to stay agile. Hunting on the ground, like sitting there on the ground for a long time, like, dude, my back just starts hating me, But like
Hmm.
if I but I think what I think about when I'm in there is like I'm working on these things, working on my hips, working on my low back for strengthening, stretching. Like this is gonna let me be in that position a little bit longer. Like that, I'm gonna have that scenario at some point next year or in the next couple of years where I'm like this, and that buck's right there, and he's staring at me, or I need to he needs to stand up, or he needs to turn, and I need to be able to maintain that position and without bumping him. I know that because I've been in that situation before, and it's like, oh, my back, my knees, oh, and I move and I blow it out. Like I've done it. I've done it multiple times. So um, that's why that is the big habit of mine. And it's just again, it's just checking a box. Um, something that in my brain I feel like I need to do that consistently. And I'm
Well,
fine with a day off from the gym. Like I need it once in a while, just to recover or whatever. But it's just another thing that I think helps me. And I've just transformed the way I worked out. I used to, in college, it's like, oh, I want to be big and, get these biceps and all that stuff. Like I don't care about that anymore. Now it's just all geared towards hunting, mainly Western hunting, but like, getting up in a tree. I want to be able to hunt out of a saddle and get up in a tree like Eberhart and, when he's 75 or whatever the hell he is. You know what I mean? I talked to him and he's like, that guy, I talked to him, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago, maybe. He had set up like he had set up like prepped 8 trees in the last 2 days. And the guy's like 75 years old and he's hung 30 feet up. And I'm trying to think like, do I know anybody like my age or younger that's done that? Like, no, I don't think so. Like, the guy's a machine but he took care of himself, and it's like, I'm thinking longevity, long term. How long can I do this at at a high level? And I see guys like that, and it's very motivating. It's very inspiring. So that's
And
definitely one of them.
and I think it has. I'm far from the definition of peak physical fitness, right? Like, but I do run. I try to do it every day, and it helps. Like, it's a huge factor. You talk about it in being a long term thing, and it definitely is. Like I want to be in better shape and things like that for my kids' sake too, and just for living life. But in the short term, I think getting in shape for a summer is going to have huge effects because it had huge effects for me the very following season. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that I got in the best shape that I've been in my adult life and then killed the biggest deer of my life.
Mm.
I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's very, very closely connected for me. And there's other things too. I mean, you talk about being efficient with your weapon and scouting and knowing, like, I did all that same stuff as well, but the fitness part was a huge part of killing that deer. And so I mean, I work out and I do it because I want to be in better shape, but I'm the same as you. In my mind, as I'm doing it, it's like, this is going to make me a better deer hunter. That's like the number one thing that I'm thinking about. Like, and 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 it worked. I can't. It just worked for me, right? Like, it was a good thing, and I'm not going to say that it's going to be that way every single year, and that I've unlocked a new thing for me. But it worked the first year, so dadgummit, I'm going to keep trying it. I'm
Yeah.
going to keep doing it. I
Yeah,
think
and
it's huge.
you love this. You're a deer slayer and you love this. This is a huge part of your life. You want to do it as long as possible at the level you're doing it and even climb levels. And I feel the same way. But you said, you mentioned like you're not at like peak, physical shape or whatever, but yeah, that's important for longevity for one, right? You want to be able to stay healthy and do this. So there's a motivator. But it's not like you have to be some ripped muscle beast to even hunt out west. Really, it's
Yeah, I
what?
said that because I'm talking to Andy May in this conversation, and who you might be. You're America's deer hunter, uh, so you're kind of like Hercules, to be honest with you. I feel
Well,
like I had to say it because I was talking to Andy May. If I was talking to another chubby guy, I'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't have said anything.
yeah, but what that running and working out is doing for you, man, it's building that mental toughness. And I would take a guy out west with me that's mentally tough over a guy that's like physically fit
Mm-hmm.
any day. I've been with people that are physically fit and they bonk quick. It's here, and
Yeah,
that's the one thing that running or working out or doing things that are hard that you're building that you don't often think about is that mental toughness. So it's like when I'm on some of those hunts, like I remember this like Nevada hunt. It was 10 days in the backcountry in the Ruby Mountains, August 10th through August 20th, hot as hell, living off your back. And man, like it was difficult. Like I had never done anything quite like that. My knees were trashed. I was completely dehydrated. Couldn't get hydrated. I didn't know at that time. I didn't know about proper refueling electrolytes and all this stuff. But man, we never quit. We pushed it right till the very last second. Almost killed a world class mule deer in the very last few minutes before we had to leave. And it was just like that was just all in the head. It was just all in the head. Just
yeah,
just not quitting. And it's these little things too. It's like here's a Western example, but like maybe it's 6 o'clock. It gets dark at 7:15, and you're glassing across canyon, and you see a giant mule deer, and you're like, oh man, like what some people might do is like, ah, well, we'll come up here tomorrow first thing, and we'll glass, and we'll try to relocate them, and maybe that is the right play. Or you might be like, shoot, I got time, man. Like, I'm here. Like, let's hunt. Like, I trained for this. Like, I can get down and up and I can be over there with 20 minutes of light left. Let's make this happen. Like, those are
Mm-hmm.
two different mindsets. And, that mindset versus the other mindset in the long run, one of them is going to pull away from the other. Not that you're competing with another guy, but ultimately we are out there competing for this resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that guy is going to pull away from the other. So it's that mindset and that mental toughness that'll really help you. Even in the whitetail woods, because in whitetail, even though it might not be as physical as some of these western hunts, it's a lot of times much more mental. You have to you have to practice patience and persistence, which is hard. That is hard. That's hard for me. To be able to sit long hours in the stand when nothing is going on, but you just have that confidence in the spot. It's like that's mental toughness. Be able to grind out all day and sit in a spot when nothing is happening. It's hard to do that 2 days, 3 days in a row, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. Brutal,
Yeah.
brutal. But
It
it's like it
sucks.
pays off. It does. It really does.
And when you
So.
have that voice, so for me, a lot of the, since we're talking about this, a lot of it this past season was like, uh, let me say this too. I was just telling Walter this the other day. I don't feel like my fitness ever held me back.
Mhm.
And by that I mean like I would still go to the places that I wanted to go, and I'd still work as hard as I possibly could to get there. Um, but I would be tired, and the other decisions that I made wouldn't be as good, and it would be more like, man, you talk about making a shot really quick, being patient and waiting. I'd be like, man, I worked so hard to get here. I need to take the first shot opportunity I got and flub it up. Like it, and it never, my fitness never took me out of the game, but it just let me stay there longer and made it more consistent throughout the season. Like where I might say, okay, I'm going to wait because it's going to be hard to get back there. I'm going to wait until the perfect day to go back there. I'm still going to go. I'm going to do it all.
Mhm.
But it kind of that mindset that you're talking about. Like it's not a bad idea if you see a mule deer across a canyon to come back in the morning. Like most people would make that decision and be like and feel blessed for it, right? They'd be
Mhm.
feel blessed for the chance to be able to make a game plan.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the difference maker for you is you're not doing that, and I think that's a huge mental thing. It's a huge mental thing. Like I'm going to do it now because I can, because I trained for this. For me, it was like, hey, I'm going to sit here because I convinced myself to run in the middle of the day, and I ran 5 miles. I can sit here for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? Um, like that's just kind of I think it trains that mindset, and it gets your mind into shape more than anything.
It really
Um,
does, because like I find myself throughout the season or on hunts sometimes, and I get the same thoughts everybody does. It's like, oh man, like, do I like, I haven't scouted this drainage yet, and there's only an hour and a half left. It's 2 miles away. I'm going to be 6 miles from camp. I don't know. Do I really go over there? And then it's like I've trained my I've trained my brain to choose the difficult thing. Whenever I like start second guessing myself, like, do I really want to do that, or do I want to I know I should, but I don't want to. It's like I've trained my brain to always do what I know I should. So it's just like, God damn it, okay, go. Just go.
yeah,
It's just like, okay, you're whatever, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles away from camp, whatever. You walk back.
yeah,
It's like, like I'm out here, I'm out west. Like this is where I want to be. This is the life I want to live. It's like, this is what you wanted. So, I'm no different than anybody else, and I still find myself choosing the easy way out sometimes too. And it's like I'll beat myself up about it, and I'm like, okay, that was weak. You gave up, or you chose that, and you need to do better. So I mean, I'm not immune to it at all, but I'm very very mindful of it.
yeah. Well, dude, we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, and we still got three more of these things. So let's speed
Oh,
through.
okay.
Let's speed through and get through some of these. I know
Uh,
we got know your weapon, scouting, improve weakness or find a new skill, stay in shape.
yeah.
What's number 5?
Um, one thing is that I do every day is I visualize. Which is kind of hokey pokey, but um, I've I'm kind of like drawn to like high level performers. So I've listened to like some people talk, or I've talked to people that are, really good at certain things. It's normally like a sport or something. It could be like a pilot. Um, it could be someone in the military or whatever. But visualizing what it is you want to happen and how you want to perform in a certain scenario. So I spend time every day, usually right before I go to bed. I'll usually say a prayer, and then I visualize two things. I'll visualize a completely made up scenario um of a whitetail or a mule deer or an elk or whatever, just a completely new scenario that I've never experienced before. And I visualize this animal coming in, doing its thing. I visualize me like on the ground or up in a tree or whatever it is, and then this deer, this animal coming in, presenting the shot, me drawing back, settling the pin, going through my shot process, being very patient, and executing the shot. And I literally visualize my arrow go perfectly where I'm looking. And in some ways, I feel like you're kind of manifesting your own destiny, but in other ways, it's like I'm not actually doing it, but I'm doing it in my mind, and I get used to being successful. I get used to making the perfect shot. The other thing I do is I visualize the same doing the same thing, but I do it on an animal that I've messed up on. So it's like I'm replaying one that I wounded, replaying one that I missed, replaying one that I rushed through the shot, and I make that perfect shot. So I do that every night. Um, and has it helped me? I don't know. I think so. I've talked to, you've probably seen videos of like fighter pilots, and they're in a classroom and they're all got their eyes shut and they're actually visualizing, as the instructor's giving instruction, they're visualizing shifting and maneuvering the plane. I think all those things, like it's a mind repetition, and it's just, to me it feels like it gives me an edge. To me, it makes me feel like I said, I'm kind of manifesting my own destiny, and I'm seeing myself make perfect shots. I get used to making perfect shots. So
Are you
that's what I
trying
think's
to
going to happen.
are you trying to within these while you're visualizing this stuff, which the first thing I thought of, I don't know if you've seen Waterboy where he's like visualize the attack when the baby head pops up or whatever. That's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
But are you trying to like you say you do it with animals that you've messed up on, with deer or whatever that you've messed up on? Are you trying to like find things that you messed up on and improve them in that visualization? Is that kind of the point? Is like to figure out what went wrong and fix it, like
I'm
simulated fixing it?
I'm trying to simulate me doing it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because it's something that I failed at, and there's I've had some heartbreakers, man. I've made some. You do this long enough, you're going to have some mistakes. Plus, it's bow hunting, and there's deer that I've missed that I never visualize because I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything on my part right. I executed the shot. I pulled, and maybe that animal ducked, or maybe that animal took a step as I executed the shot. I can live with that. That's bow hunting. These animals they're wild animals. Whitetail are very quick movers. They can, we all know that, they can move on the shot big time. So as long as I do my part, I'm happy. That's like, I count that as like, I can accept once that arrow leaves. If I did everything to the best of my ability, I did my part. I can live with the consequences of what happens after that. But if I screw up my part, I take that real heavy. That really sits with me. So those are the ones that I'm kind of revisualizing and trying to do things perfectly in that scenario.
That's good stuff, man. I mean, I think we all kind of do that a little bit, but maybe not intentionally. And
Hmm.
intentionally taking time to I could see some people needing to write it out
Hmm.
or draw it up,
Would be
like
good. Yeah, that would be
being a good
another
way to do
another way to
that.
do it. Yeah, I actually visualize my pin, like literally my pin housing just sitting right where I want it to hit. And then I visualize, I'll even say, I'll walk myself through because I always say, as I'm executing the shot, I always say pull, 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 pull. And what that it's just telling me to pull through the shot, pull my arm back, whether I'm using an index like this, pull, 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 or a thumb, pull, pull, pull. And then I just see that arrow go and I see it sail right into that spot and then just disappear right into that animal. It's like I'm watching it just execute perfectly. I don't know. It's kind of a nice way to go to bed too.
Yeah, how often do you dream about what you just visualized? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, not too often, but I do think it helps me. I really do because you just you get used to seeing yourself succeed. Like in the backyard, like I said, I'm making these shots, I'm making difficult shots, and it's those reps. I've done hundreds and thousands of shots of just boom, boom, boom in the vitals, in the vitals, in the vitals. That confidence is soaring, so I have all that to go back to, and now I'm visualizing these perfect shots. It's like you're just visualizing your success constantly. So then when that scenario happens, it's like, dude, I'm so confident,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I haven't messed up my portion in a very long time. My execution, my shot execution, rushing the shot, punching the
Hmm.
trigger, it's been years and years and years. And because I've fixed that part. That was a major issue. That was a major hiccup for me. That is gone. That doesn't mean I don't miss sometimes. That doesn't mean I don't hit one high or hit one back. I do. I'm still human. I'm still get nervous and I'm still like adrenaline's going and man, I'm shaking a little bit. But I love that feeling. And I know, just because I'm making these shots in practice in the backyard and setting them in there really good, I know in a real life scenario, those groups are going to be bigger because there's wind, there's the adrenaline, there's the breathing heavy. You might have just hiked up a big hill or, you got this big buck working in real slow and your heart's coming out of your chest. So I know that but it's like almost like high level training and then your performance is under that, but it's still high level. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And you can't argue. I mean, you're sitting here talking about it like I don't have these issues anymore. I kind of feel like I'm going to let you finish these out, but most of these are really based on overcoming maybe natural tendencies or weakness. Most of your habits are all about fixing,
Hmm.
right? Like, and that's huge. That's huge.
Hmm.
Fixing issues, just knowing your weapon, you're fixing a problem. Most people don't. Scouting, hey, that's maybe a little bit different. But the third one that you had, improving weaknesses or learning a new skill set, that's a big thing, and I think it goes directly into visualizing. Like like they're not the same thing. I don't think they're the same habit, but they both work very closely together
Yeah.
on fixing things that may have happened or could potentially happen. That's good stuff. That's something I've not heard before. So there you have it. I don't know if you've talked about that on another podcast or not before, but that's a
I
that's
may
a
have mentioned visualizing before, but I haven't visualized it that or I haven't mentioned it that much because I sometimes think people think it's kind of silly, but
I don't, man. When you first said it, like I said, I immediately thought of the coach on Waterboy and turning his head turned into a baby. That's what I pictured. So I kind of chuckled a little bit, but as you talk, it makes a lot of sense. And people in high pressure, you said military, you said pilots and things like in high pressure situations, which is deer hunting. That's a high
Mhm.
pressure situation. It's lighter. It's not quite as intense, or maybe the consequences of screwing it up are not as big.
Right.
But it's still maybe even the same amount of pressure, if not more. I don't know. I've never flown a plane or been in the military, but I've shot at big deer and missed because it was too much pressure for me.
Yeah, and I get like maybe some of this process might sound a little intense, and people are like, "Geez, man, I just want to deer hunt." Yeah, it's just deer hunt. Like, have fun. But for me, this is fun. Like, I enjoy this. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it to be the best hunter. I'm not doing it um to impress anybody. I'm doing it because I enjoy this. It gives my life direction. It gives me some focus outside of family, outside of work. It gives me something to like it gives me some direction in life that I think is healthy. It's making me grow. It's challenging myself. That's why I like to do it. Yes, I'm obsessed with deer hunting. I'm very passionate about it. It's very important to me to continue to grow and be, and become better than what I was last season and the season before. That's kind of like the last thing we can touch on is like I like, and this is not every hunt. I'm not saying that, but I like to hunt difficult areas in difficult ways. Like not every deer back here was a grind and on the ground at 5 yards. It wasn't like that. I've had some hunts that came together really quickly, really easily, didn't take that much work. I've had some that I've killed right not far from the road, other ones that have been miles and miles back. So, but I like to hunt things in difficult areas. I hate hunting in Michigan, but I like hunting in Michigan because it's made me a better hunter. It's been incredible training ground to go and travel to other states where maybe there's more mature deer or better age class. It's served me very well. Hunting a difficult state, and then you travel to these other states that people think suck, but I go there and I think they're great, um, even though they might suck compared to another state. Um, so just choosing to do things hard or choosing to even hunt things in a harder way. Like, I have nothing against hunting, deer over a corn pile. I have nothing hunting deer over a food plot. At some point in my life, maybe that's the way, maybe I want to experience that more. But like the way I look at it is like, I'm in my prime. Maybe I'm a little past my prime,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to hold on to it for dear life. Why would I want to hunt some easy, cupcake setup when I'm literally putting all this effort in to become a better deer hunter when I'm in my prime? Like, that's something I think is more some of that stuff. I'm not trying to crap on anyone that does that. I have hunted over a food plot before. I own a small 13-acre piece, and I put a little clover plot out there. My daughter has shot a buck in the clover plot. Like, it's fun. Like, I like it. But is that what I want to do? Like, for throughout my whole hunting season? No. Like, that would be incredibly unfulfilling. Do I want to run 100 bait sites with cell cameras and bounce around and do that? Absolutely not. To me, that's like, okay, that might be something like when I'm elderly or when I don't have the ability to hunt in the way that excites me. Maybe then I go to some of these easier hunts, hunting out of a box blind, planting a food plot, and oh, cool, the deer are coming. I built this. I get that. That's very rewarding. Um, but like, I like to do things that are difficult. I want to hunt antelope spot and stalk, even though I know the success rate is lower than sitting over water, because it's a challenge. It's going to challenge me. It's going to require my best. I want to hunt mule deer in difficult areas and not sitting at a water tank, because that's the exciting hunt that I'm looking for. That's what I'm in my mind, I'm preparing myself for. So I don't want these little cupcake hunts, and I don't want to hunt in a manner that I'm relying on technology so much that it's taking away some of the challenge. I want to be challenged. And again, I'm not saying that every single deer I kill is in the hardest way possible and is, everything's DIY public land. No, I'm not saying that. Like, I've got permission on little pieces of ground, permission knock on door pieces, you know, around that I hunt on sometimes. So, but even those can be hard. It's just like,
Yeah.
but the point is, I'm in my prime, or still near it enough where I still want to challenge myself, and I don't want just easy hunts. Like, I would get nothing from hunting in that manner all season long. I would get nothing from hunting with outfitter, or corn pile cell cam, corn pile cell cam. Like, like nothing from that. Would it be fun? Would it be fun to sit there and maybe you're hunting with a buddy and he's like, man, there's been a big one around here, and it's like there's a corn pile, you can, and here he comes in. Yeah, it's super exciting. But do I want a whole season of that, or a whole lifetime of hunts like that? I do not. I do not.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I
they don't do anything. They don't do anything to challenge you as a human. You talked about, so you like hunting because it sets you on a life trajectory. Like, even though, like, it doesn't really matter how many big bucks you kill in your life, you don't get to take them to heaven. It's not it's not that important.
right.
But it's kept you in shape. You're gonna live longer. You're gonna have a more healthy life. Yeah, I think I mean, it's kind of like football. Fundamentals that you learn playing football set you up for different situations that are not football or sports related, or decisions that you have to make in your life. They're going to be big decisions, but they may not be related to that. But you learned a skill set. Teamwork is a huge one that you get from sports in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to work with a team. It's fundamental things. And I think deer hunting has the same thing. The sport of hunting can do so much more than just, you know, decorate your walls with big deer. It's, if you do it the way that you're talking about, you know, being mentally tough, you can make tough decisions that have nothing to do with deer hunting. You can choose the hard way that you know is the right way when it comes to business, or buying a certain vehicle. You know, like you start making those decisions in your passion, and it starts to overflow into the way that you live your life. And so, you know, that's the common denominator, I think, with all of the things that you've mentioned. It's like, dude, if you could almost put all these into somebody who likes to bowl, you know, and say, like, just do these things, know your bowling ball, know the pins, you know, like, you could go through all this list of things and say, like, but I think having that focus and being the best that you can be at that one thing, in this case, it's deer hunting, it sets up your life for success as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And you cheat yourself if you, I'm not saying you're cheating by using corn piles or food plots or whatever. I've killed plenty of deer that way,
Yep.
but you're cheating your potential. That's all you're doing. You're cheating your potential.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, hopefully the listeners have gauged like my mindset from when we started to now. It's like it's a mindset of wanting to get better, not wanting to make hunting easier so that I'm more successful. It's for me to get better so that I'm more successful, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
difference. I think you know, it's clear to see out there, you know, with YouTube or whatever, you know, different shows and stuff. There's people out there that are way more successful, but they might be hunting with outfitter, you know, or hunting in a different manner. But like, I'm hunting for myself. I'm hunting in with the intent of trying to be the best hunter that I can be. I can only do that through, in my mind, I'm doing everything that I can physically with my equipment, with myself, with my practice. Like, I refer to it as training. Like, I'm training to be able to do things at a higher level than I did last year. So of course I want to challenge myself because I'm putting that effort into doing that. I don't want to make the hunting easier so that I can put more deer on the wall. That really doesn't fulfill me. It really doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so that's the way I look at it. There's people out there that are, that's why you can't always judge people by their wall or by what they kill. If it's fine. Like, if that's the way they're hunting, and it's like, oh, that's kind of the way I hunt, or that's what I want out of hunting, then by all means learn everything you can. But I'm very picky and choosy of who I listen to, and who I take tidbits from. I want to hear some context of the work they put in, you know, where they're hunting, how they're hunting, and then maybe I can learn from that. But I want to challenge myself. I'm still capable of doing things that I think are challenging in bow hunting, and I want that challenge. That's how I want it. I don't want to make hunting easier for me so that I'm more successful, and I think that's what a lot of people do.
Well, dude, you're setting the standard, man. Like, you set the standard for a lot of us, and I appreciate it big time. So I got to ask you one more question, and this might put a little bit of pressure on you.
Okay.
And so I apologize, but we got to round this thing out at 7. Do you have something small, like just something that you don't, that doesn't require a ton of explanation, so we can get to 7 habits of a
Oh,
highly effective deer
we didn't
hunter?
get 7.
No, we were at 6.
Oh, let's see. I have
I
written down.
got, unless I just didn't write one down, I got know your weapon, scouting year round, new skill, stay in shape, visualize, find difficult places with difficult methods.
Yeah, yeah. Here's one. Um, well, it kind of goes with identifying your weakness, but reach out to somebody that you see that is doing something better than you are, or something that they appear to be better at a certain aspect of hunting than you are. Reach out to that person, and maybe they don't want to be reached out to. That's fine. Don't bother them. But reach out to that person, and if they don't, reach out to another person and try to learn from them. I have done that my whole life. I'll still do that. Um, so especially as I started to get more interested in other species, like now, I got a really good buddy that lives in Hawaii, and he's like the man on the island for killing like big rams and these big Spanish goats. And I don't know anything about them. But it's like, all right, that's a new challenge, like new territory, new ground, new type of terrain, new animal. Like I'm like a kid again, just starting to bow hunt deer, and I'm like, tell me everything. Like tell me everything, and I went out and hunted there with him, and we were tracking all over these public ground, had an awesome hunt, killed a bunch of critters, and I was like a kid asking him so many questions, and he's like, geez, like no, nobody ever asks these this many questions. But that's my mindset, is like I need to gather in as much. I know I can kill animals. Like I'm sneaky. I'm good with my weapon. Like I have some hunting instincts there, but I don't really know the species. So I'm asking them all the little nuances of the species. It's just like I want to gather in so much information as quickly as possible, so that I can have the hunt that I'm looking for. And so yeah, reach out to somebody. Most people are more than willing to help. If you're having trouble with shooting, if you're having trouble with, I never get on anything early season, but you see this guy killing early season bucks, reach out. How do you do this? Like, what's your strategy? Like, what are you doing that I'm not? Like, help me out here so I can get on the right track. Don't ask for like pins, don't ask for that type of stuff, but like show your willingness to learn, and that you're willing to do your own work.
Mm-hmm.
And that will go a long way. Like I've done that to multiple people. There's a handful of people that I could list out that had major impacts on me throughout the years in improving certain parts, or motivating me, or inspiring me. So to reach out to people, I still do it. I still do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Finding mentors, being, I mentioned it in a podcast that we did live last night. Be the dumbest person in the room, man. Like,
Yeah.
surround yourself with people who are smarter than you at the thing that you want to do, and you'll find yourself. I mean,
Absolutely.
you'll
Yeah.
find yourself making better decisions, dude.
Yeah.
So good, man. That's such a good list of habits. I think, like,
Yeah.
when I rack my mind thinking of different podcasts that I've done, I don't know that any of them have ever covered this wide of a range of topics so efficiently. And so I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming up with that. And dude, I want to say I appreciate you taking it seriously, like putting time into thinking of these things. It absolutely helps with making sure a podcast flows well. But I know for the listener, they appreciate that as well.
Yeah. No, that was fun. That was a good idea, and I enjoyed. I didn't really know I was doing all this stuff, but I was like, oh yeah, I do that. I do that. Yep, I do that. That helps. So it was kind of neat to write it down and think about it. But all those things for sure, impact me in some way. But hopefully that can help some people.
Absolutely. Well, Andy, I appreciate you coming on, dude, and spending your morning talking with me. I know. Here's the thing I know are true, that if people will find one of these things and focus on it for a minute, it's going to increase success, and it's gonna make you a better deer hunter. Also, I think it'll make you a better person. So, yeah, we'll put these in the show notes so everybody can see them listed out. And yeah, Andy, again, thanks for coming on the show.
No problem, buddy.
All right, you guys make sure that you are listening to this podcast series, No Days Off. It's going to be awesome. I know we're just at the beginning part of it right now, but every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday we're going to have either a podcast or a live podcast on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, like us on Facebook and on Instagram. But yeah, that's about all we got. I hope you tune in for the next episode of No Days Off.